Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Retro Encounter. As always, I'm Josh Curry. With me is Davi Tesnovich,
Horse feathers.
Chris Gebauer, and Marcos Gaspar.
Heyo.
And we are wrapping up our indie month here at Retro Encounter, so we're going to be talking about Juniper's Knot. A tiny little game that probably most of you have never heard about, but you should all go out and at least give it a look because it is free. And I think early response from all of us is we all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I love Davey. From you, we got a even though it's like your game that you have pushed.
I was trying not to be too excited about it.
So
no. Yeah, I think everyone liked it a lot, actually.
and so it is free on PC, or you could. It's 99 cents on iOS, and I'm guessing Android. But that's how Chris and I played.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to be like, hey, I gotta be on my iPhone real quick. I gotta wrap this game up so I can do this podcast.
Yeah. Also super convenient to be just lying in bed last night and read it and be like, oh, that was awesome.
I
Go pass it.
went and got my hair cut, so I was waiting for my lady to be like ready for me. Played a little bit, went over to Pita Pit while they're like frying up my meat. So like play a little bit more, just click. So it actually was relieving. It was a nice kind of relaxing game in that regard. But the content of it was not relaxing whatsoever. That game went super dark. I did not expect that type of game. Definitely because, so, background, if you guys, for some reason, did not listen to the other episodes in February, we kind of had this idea, instead of covering one game in a month, like we usually do, we're going to cover 3. And we were going to have a core theme around each of them. And when we were, like, listing out these games, and for the most part, Davey and I went through and made this huge list, we were, like, trying to get, like, hey, let's have a concept or a theme surrounding it. And I paired Gone Home and To the Moon. Oh, damn it. To the Moon. I really hate that we did Pokemon before this. And all of a sudden, Davey just, like, dropped Juniper's Knot. And so I had zero concept of it other than there's a lady with horns and some titties.
Wow. Well
I
done.
think most women do have titties, Josh.
No, but it's one of those things is like, I don't know. After going
Just
from...
looking at the art.
Yeah, just after the art, it's like, oh, alright. This is what we're doing, okay. But there was like a kind of assumption, I was like, oh, it's going to be more melancholy like that. Or like Love Struck. And it was interesting to have, at face value, it was not a love story. I think the argument can be that with some of the past that, and unfortunately we don't have names, but the demon, the fiend, that she talked about, there's obviously a love story there, and I think there's a quasi-love story that develops between her and the boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but in a much more platonic or...
Yeah.
Like almost like a mother and a son. And a
Yeah,
father and a daughter in a very different way. Like, in some regards, he becomes her protector, and then she promises to be his protector in return.
Yeah.
And from what she said about what she's capable of, yeah, she's probably going to do fine in protecting him.
He should be all right.
Yeah, he's going to do good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like in exchange for his empathy, she gives him her trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you guys have not played it yet, it's completely a visual novel. I'm not sure what it is on a computer, but on a phone, you're just going to sit there tapping on the screen, and you're just going to read for about an hour. You're going to go on a small adventure, and like we kind of start off with the boys kind of going on, like they shift perspectives, but it starts with the fiend, and this boy's lost on an adventure essentially, and then they start a conversation. They have this dialogue because she is stuck in a circle that has kept her there for hundreds, possibly thousands. We have no idea, but for a very, very long time. And it's this interesting conversation they have with him being lost and hungry and tired, and her wanting revenge and to be free. And
Yeah. Well, she's just almost like lost her mind at this point. Like she's been isolated there for so long.
yeah,
Yeah.
one of my favorite lines is she has he talks about how he's lost, and she kind of has like this turn of a phrase where she's like, "It's funny that you're lost because I know this place so intimately." She's like,
Yeah.
so intimately it would make you blush. And it's like, wow, okay. Wow. And it was like, and I think that's part of one of the things that is so great about it. And you have to nail this in a game like this, is you have to have the dialogue be so succinct and so perfect. You can't have that ring false, because everything that you're experiencing is essentially either the written thought or the written word of these individuals.
Yeah,
and the juxtaposition of their situations, like through the wit of the dialogue, of how she constantly turns what he's saying against him, or like another example is when he goes to sleep and just her whole
she was pissed.
Thought process of just jealousy and hatred for the fact that he can rest, just can actually take a break from all of it, and then all of a sudden just the pure vitriol and hatred of, it would have been better if I had just been left alone because I wouldn't have to think of hope and all the rest of it. And the game constantly does, or the visual novel does a great job of constantly going back and forth and playing off of what seems like an innocuous or innocent statement can all of a sudden become a source of great pain or humor for her.
Yeah, like when he says, "I've been lost for 2 days," and she goes, "Oh, is that a long time?"
Yeah, exactly.
I've been here for a couple hundred years, buddy.
Yeah. I'm not lost, but I'm not leaving.
Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, when he goes to sleep, that's easily the darkest part of the game. When you finally get when you get to see what it's like when she is isolated, when she doesn't have him there to talk to her, like, it gets dark. And she talks about like all the ways she's tried to end her existence so she doesn't have to deal with that anymore. But wow, no, and like the cussing, man, like you kind of get the impression that this game, like for all its melancholy, is kind of like innocent and kind of pure. But
yeah,
man,
she
the
just
language
goes off on a tear there, and you're like, that was not expected, and kind of awesome.
Yeah, no, it hits home. It's done very well.
It's very honestly vicious.
Yeah.
There's actually a moment there when he first falls asleep. I thought that they were going to go the direction that he was figment of her imagination.
Ooh.
Because they had played up that she had been there so long and that she was kind of losing it. And I even if I was super tired, if someone was throwing things at me and screaming and just like losing their mind 5 feet away from me, I'd like to think I'd wake up. And so I actually thought it was going a really, really twisted direction of this is her moment of fully losing it, where she just like she can no longer connect to reality, and she is seeing this and tormenting herself beyond her already obstacles that she has of being in the ring.
Yeah, you know what's really weird, and I'm used to like a lot of games doing this where it comes off very innocent. Like I thought at some point in this game that it was just going to turn really, really vicious, and she was just going to kill him right there and then.
Like she was going to do it?
Yeah, like snap his neck or something there. And I'm like, oh, I knew it, because I'm so used to games or stories playing out like that. But I was pleasantly surprised that she did not, in fact, snap his neck or anything.
So I really like the way that's played up, because like if the player doesn't have as much empathy as the boy, you believe that until the very end.
Even at the end, though, because she is hugging him, like clinging to him, and then she just like whispers, "I'm sorry."
That was the time. Oh no, when she whispers words that he can't hear.
Because she says, "I'm sorry," and then she whispers the words that he can't hear. I was like, "Here it goes."
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh no, it's a curse. It's some
Rend
kind of."
him,
That was the
just
one time
rip
exactly.
him apart.
I thought that was the moment, and then when it didn't, I was like, "Oh."
That was as soon as it did not happen there, I was like, she's in for the long haul at this point.
She's committed.
Yeah. Which it makes sense, because for her to be willing to let go of him in the first place, let him go and try to save her.
Yeah.
Like, that's a huge step for her. And you can tell it's a huge step because when we return, she is a mess. She absolutely is a wreck. And she keeps talking about how she's finally feeling emotions and whatnot. So it wouldn't have made a lot of sense for her to destroy him after he actually saved her. But then also...
the desperation.
Right. But there is an element to be said. We don't understand this world, so you'd say, hey, she's a fiend, this is her being. Like,
exactly.
Even when she is supposedly supposed to be happy, she still can't get that happiness. And there's that twist of, you are no longer inside that circle, but you will forever be in this circle of torment. Because that's who you are.
And especially clearly when she's walking away and she talks about how, she can feel that everyone that she used to know is gone.
Yeah.
Even those other, seemingly eternal creatures, these other fiends, her parents, the other fiends she knew. she knows they're gone, and this is not the world she knew in any shape or form in terms of civilization where it is. And so, I'll finally take that rest when this kid is gone.
Yeah, and I think so. I was watching something separate to this about just kind of like it had prison in it, so it made me kind of connect. There's a lot of parallels to real life of an inmate after they have committed some sort of crime, whether it's heinous or not, but that they just had to spend time in jail and then coming back. And there is, no matter how long that distance or that time or that distance was apart from people, you're coming back to a world you no longer understand.
Yeah.
And that hers is obviously to the max because it's hundreds and hundreds of years. But she is entering. She has no concept of the city that she's going to with him. She talks about the color. She talks about how the people have even changed because he keeps remarking about how he is weak. She is utterly a fish out of water, and that's why she says she's going to protect him. But in a larger sense, he is still going to be protecting her every step of the way because she's not going to understand anything and her place. She's not going to understand her place in the world. So it's, I think, for a very, very extended period of time, it is going to be a codependent relationship.
Yeah, he's like the Navi to her Link.
I literally don't understand that.
Oh, brutal.
Wow, a lot of people from the site now just cried.
Yeah, it's okay. I spend my time playing good games.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so you guys, I love that tension that the reader gets, that they are always suspecting her, like they understand her desperation, like, and I can't even imagine having the willpower to just let him go, to be like, okay, here's my chance out, just walk away, like after all my desperation, all my solitude, like, man, I can't imagine the willpower it would take.
Yeah, and especially when in that moment when she really flies off the handle when he's asleep, and she references she had one moment and she let it go, and she starts the self-loathing.
Yeah.
But it goes to show that as much as, and the self-loathing is totally justifiable, as we talked about before, it's that uber dark, just pure hatred, but it's also, it goes to show that company, just any kind of contact, has been so remarkable for her that she's, even if it's not going to end in her salvation of any kind in terms of escape, she is willing to prolong contact with another human. Even if she's not being honest and she's not, she's toying with him because she's far more intellectual,
right,
and just much more capable, she will let certain lies exist because it's more fun for her. And, again, she just is desperate to talk to anything. But at the same time, she could just end it and escape by just being like, yeah, put your hand through here again.
Yeah.
Grab,
and then
move, bye, friend.
The second time he does, he reaches in the circle to hold her hand, and she has a really hard time letting go.
Yeah, and there's that one moment, and she starts pricking him.
Yep.
And I also thought that might end up in some kind of incantation or a thing or something we wouldn't understand. But then afterwards, I looked at that as she was debating, do I just pull him in and
she was squeezing extra
lead
hard.
him out? Yeah. Or do we just... awesome.
But I do love that you keep bringing up that you think things will be an incantation. Like, this setting is so strange and foreign and complete that, like, you can accept that anything can happen here, and you can accept, like, I just don't know how this works. Well, and, like, you're constantly curious about the world and the rules.
Yeah, it's a woman with horns, or a creature with horns that has the shape of a woman. It's called a fiend. I looked at that and immediately I think of, like, satyrs and everything from Greek mythology and all the rest of it, into just creatures. And like you said, anything's possible.
Yep.
And
she
you
even
just
references
don't know.
after she gets out, because they talk about how she had to use to grind down her horns, and he asks about her ears, and she mentioned of, I think, some sort of elfling.
No, she's talking about
halfling.
half fiends. Yeah.
Okay, but there is a very complex world that is not touched on. I guess is a kind of
there is like. And that's why I like, for me, I was thinking of just old mythologies because of these ideas of, like, creatures in the forests, dryads and whatnot that people know about because they've heard the legends of fiends, but you don't really see them. And usually if you do.
You know what's really odd, though, is the setting itself doesn't look like it would come from hundreds or thousands of years ago. It actually, for me, it looks like something more, I don't want to say modern, but like the last couple of hundreds of years, probably.
Yeah.
Like, that does not look like something like from, like, the time of mythology, unless what she did happened a couple hundred years ago that would affect that setting. So that would make me think that, like, well, this wasn't like anything prior to maybe 15, 1400 or something like that, or anything earlier than that, just by the setting itself. So I'm really curious.
So
the cathedral and
I think your biggest mistake you're making, though, Marcos, is assuming that it's Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another thing. Like I don't know if it's Earth.
Well, if we're using that as just a base of just trying to logically grasp things, he definitely lives in whether it's an industrial age or a mechanical age, because he's talking about oil and all the rest of it, and machines.
Yeah,
so if you use Earth, it's got to be like a 19th century-ish kind of thing.
Yeah, and they talk about flappers too.
Yeah,
flappers.
And they do.
Yeah, flapper.
That caught me off guard. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
it made me chuckle.
Yeah.
Are you calling me a flat boy?
Yeah.
that was when I was like, wait, what? Really? And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's before it gets real dark and you're just kind of enjoying the banter and the weird stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why just having her in a corset-like outfit, while it's not entirely contemporary, it's a very basic piece of dress that can fit so many eras.
Yep. Going
so far back and still be in style, just in different ways. So it is a very vague piece of clothing that says it's not now to us.
Yeah.
That's not, that's
yeah. And it's like to what Josh said, like who says it's Earth? It could be something else.
Totally.
So that,
but I just, for the sake of my own logic, it's just easier.
I'd say what you mean there.
But yeah, I mean, the kid's wearing suspenders.
How dare you?
I think kids can wear suspenders in any age.
How dare you say that? There are rules, Davey. There are rules.
I think one of the most brilliant parts of the storytelling was that we got to see both perspectives.
Yeah.
And we got to see his perspective immediately after watching her complete meltdown as well.
Oh, yeah.
So again, it's one of those, you have kind of this full ride up and down of emotions. Because you have that friendly banter at the beginning. You have him immediately, the first time he puts his hands in there and she gets anger, like you have that anger, and like he says, I mean, there's anger, but it cools down and it relaxes, and you kind of have those moments where you're tensing up with him. Mm-hmm. But at the whole time, you have this almost sense of control because she is in control, even if she's not going to express exactly what happened to her to us. You feel in control and you feel that like sense, and to have it when you see her complete meltdown and have it switch to him and come off that rage and be like, I am now confused just like him, and they play the emotions up of not having, like, giving you a full roller coaster, and also really building on you experiencing what the characters are actually experiencing.
Yeah, but then playing off of, but what's the perception of the person who isn't privy to that thought process?
Right.
Because she freaks out, and then we switch to him, and he wakes up and is like, something's off, but I don't know what.
Right.
But we do, and so we get to witness him try and figure out what could have happened, and then being like, why is the stuff in my hair?
Why do I have
20...
did
she just... Yeah, why are there 20 walnuts all around her chest? Yeah.
One of the things I really wanted to talk about was the actual ending. We've kind of touched on it, but he saves her from the circle after a whole process, and David will go back to the olive tree, don't worry. But there's the conversation about how she is going to protect him and whatnot. But after that, she is basically going to give up. She's tired. She needs to relax. She needs to rest. And by rest, it's kind of the assumption that she needs to stop living, is how I took it. But with her actual phrasing, there was a sense originally when she started talking about that she was going to watch over him for the entirety of his life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then with how she phrases stuff towards the end, it sounds like she is only going to stay with him until she gets him home. So I wanted to see what your guys' thought was on that.
I took it as, she's finally able to end her life on her own terms. Mm-hmm. And I almost wonder if, because it's not expressed, but if anyone else thought this, that part of the rule of that circle where, one living thing has to replace another, is that the circle itself is also what's keeping her alive.
Yes, absolutely.
And so now that she's escaped and that's gone and she can kind of actually live, however, and I don't, again, we don't understand the rules of this world, this universe, but that she wants to help him through his whole life, and then only when he passes. Like, I saw it as the kid breathes his last breath, whatever that is, and then she will just take her leave of that world.
Okay.
Well, yeah. That's
they're trying to be really evocative too, because it's after he gets her out of the circle and they start establishing like a really solid relationship that they bring up the half fiends. So like there's a precedence for humans and fiends being in a relationship. So they're just trying to like evoke some feelings or like almost like a headcanon interpretation of what happens to these characters.
It's possible that they actually end up together as a real relationship. What's kind of funny is also with some of the art that you unlock, I guess, after playing through it, is they have there was one image of like the two of them. It looked like it was at Christmas time, like her dragging him around the city and him being like, like she's just fascinated by the world and wants to keep exploring. He's like, slow down. And so to that point, to what you were saying, Davi, I do think that they are trying to play up that idea of this could be that relationship. You know, her second attempt at what she might have thought she had with that girl. Because I don't even know if even with this boy, it's a sexual thing. I think it might even just be that connection that she had with that one person, that she sees something in this boy that evokes whatever that innocence, that wonderful joy of just being with that individual was. And she's happy to find it again.
In fairness, though, you could make the argument that even with the assumed relationship with the girl that kind of got her in the whole issue of being in the circle, that it's not necessarily known if that was actually romantic or not, or if it was just.
That's my point. We don't know if it, but there was but she talks about how she saw something in that girl that was different.
Right.
Again, I agree. It's not exactly sexual, but it is that there was something in this person that made her want to be with her. And do we actually know if it? I mean, they don't confirm that specific incident is the reason. I mean, it makes sense in terms of how this whole place has been burned to the ground that she's in. So I assumed that as well.
She specifically says that she didn't say what she did to get her in the circle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she stays away from it. But there is
the environment, I feel it, but it's not confirmed.
I think even though she does not explicitly state it, I think it's heavily implied.
Yeah,
and
for sure. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything.
The hard part is she's an imperfect, like, I can't think of the word. Not narrator, but she's purposely being coy about her history.
Yeah, she's a dishonest narrator.
Yeah.
The unreliable one.
Yeah. And so even if it was the reason that she was there, she was not going to express that. He was like, it was pulling teeth for him to get as much information as he did.
The story in my head that weirdly made sense was that she created the circumstance, like she actually created the circle as a way of an escape, and it just backfired on her. That as a weird penance for what she had done, and because it seems to be the greatest atrocity she committed was destroying that town. I mean, with everything else she says, granted, she's not going through her whole history. She's far too old and too ancient a being for that, but it seems like that was the most significant event that she's willing to discuss. And
on the other hand, on this, with the same point, like if that's not what got her into the circle, the fact that story is still so dear to her at this point in time, like that's heavy. Like,
which is why I
almost like.
I like that in my head again. I just liked the idea that it hurt her so intensely that she created the knot to escape. But then, it's the same. It's when people joke about, I hate you forever, or I'll hate you forever. And then once you get to live forever, you realize how much of a mistake that is.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Getting
very
deep.
Well said. Very gnomic of you, Christopher.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I was looking actually at some of the concept art in the extras while we were having this conversation, and there is one of him grown up.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, no, I can't find it. Yeah, so, I mean, I think you guys are right. It is not... I absolutely think you guys are right that it's not just a trip back, and she is going to leave him. And then, so you throw in the kind of the combination, granted it's guest art of the Christmas photo, and then...
Yeah.
Wherever the picture went of him as an adult, where did that go? But there is kind of the assumptions that it is going to be a very, very long term
thing.
Mm-hmm. I do wonder if the developer intended to go back to this story and these characters before they went defunct.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of an important thing to talk about. They had a Kickstarter, if I'm correct, and that just did not pan out. So they returned the money back in January. So this is actually a very, very recent thing.
Yeah.
And with that, so the reason I played on the iPhone is I could not download it through the PC. Like the link to download it would not work for me. So I'm not sure if that was part of the whole process of shutting it down as well. Which is a shame because it actually is a really good game, and
it's really good.
I think the biggest travesty is when you have something that's constructed like this. If this is actually going to slowly be pulled away, or like you look at PT, you look at those as achievements. They can be good, bad, terrible, but they are an achievement at the very least on the personal level for that individual, and there is merit to having those out there to be experienced. And it's a damn shame if they actually end up pulling this down.
Yeah.
Did you get the PC version, Marcos?
Yeah, I'm on the PC version. I was playing on my computer.
Did you download that recent?
Yeah, I downloaded it probably like a week ago.
Okay, so hopefully it was just Josh having a problem.
Yeah, I don't know, because I had downloaded it earlier in the month, and then I decided to start from scratch with my computer again. So I wait, and I realized this week I was like, oh, I have to play that. I was like, oh, I don't have it anymore. I could never get it again. So.
And how dare they force you by accident to make you pay 99 cents?
Bastards.
Which I would not be upset about paying $1 for this. Man.
Yeah, that's why I did it. It's like whatever, it's 99 cents.
I'm more so upset I'm not sure that the money's actually going to go to them.
Yeah,
if they, I didn't realize that it was a failed Kickstarter, so it is possible that's going to have to end up helping to pay.
Yeah, they did one other visual novel before they closed down.
Yeah, it was like an episode 1 of something, right?
Yeah, you're correct.
Finding it. Dysfunctional Systems.
Yeah.
That is the one. I have not played that, but I'm interested. I feel like the writer for this game, at least, was really on point. Like, I was really impressed with the prose. I really liked the use of present tense in the visual novel form. It really puts a little bit more impetus on the player just because it feels immediate.
What's also interesting is the quote that I found. It's on Wikipedia, but it was also on other sites describing Discjan Media. Is that their I guess phrase describing the company was an idea. Their concept was focusing on creating art, music, literature, and design to the utmost excellence. And I really like that line because when we were talking before we started recording, Davi and I, what I liked about this game so much, or this visual novel, is that every element is pretty fantastic in how it all comes together. The soundtrack is simple, but it's incredibly evocative and fitting for the moments especially when it crescendos to certain peaks of emotion. I love the art. The writing is fantastic. Like, it really is I'm going to say it's greater than some of its parts, but each part is pretty fantastic on its own, and they come together quite wonderfully.
It's the whole package. And I feel like, especially for like $1 thing you can get on your phone, this is like the perfect intro to visual novels. Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, can I kind of disagree with some of that?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I actually viewed the music as a whole as not terribly great. I think what is more memorable, which I think they did do a good job with, was the minor sound effects.
The design of the crackling fire and the nuts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that evokes much more emotions and understanding of place than any of the music ever did.
That's very fair.
That kind of stuff is what visual novels can do really well. Like, they can take out so much prose and instead just give you the sound of a fire or the image of a character.
And especially if it's been barren of sound up to that point, it becomes that much more of a recognizable moment.
They really do have a light hand with that stuff too. It's well done.
And then to go along the lines of me complaining, while I agree that the art was fantastic, I thought the character design was very good. I was disappointed that they didn't use more of it.
Agreed. There's moments when they're holding hands, they're not actually holding hands.
Right, or the fact that she'll be standing for the entire conversation, and then they'll end with, she stood up.
They're sitting, yeah.
And I was like, wait, she's been saying this whole time. And I know it's really nitpicky, but I wish they had done more. Like, the boy had basically standing there and his arm up.
Yeah.
And she at least had, like, they did a very good job, I actually think, with her face. of different smiles, quirks, and whatnot. But I guess I would have liked more. And I understand that adds a tremendous amount of complexity to the amount you have to draw. It's very simple because there's only so many actual drawings that they had to do for this.
And there's only it's a team of a handful of people.
He's one of the shortest credits I've ever seen.
And I think it was only one or a couple main artists. Each person on that list was doing something different.
Yeah, and so I know it's a really kind of crappy thing to complain about.
No, it's justified. I just excuse it because I saw those credits and was like, oh wow, that was one person? That's fine. You do you, man.
But yeah,
got that.
Absolutely the number one thing I would complain about was the sitting. And the worst part is they actually had models for that for when he is sitting and kind of when she's sitting, where they raise him just slightly.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been enough if they just, during those times when they were sitting and they had her standing. Like that, I don't know. I know it's a really stupid complaint.
No, I want to agree with you in a way, because as a person who's played dozens of visual novels, I always wish that they have more art. I'm never satisfied with the amount in there. And I think you could see that too, regardless of the story, you could animate more frames and you could make more art for it and it would be a better experience. And I feel like if this medium ever grew enough that you could maybe see a budget that would support something like that, and that would be amazing. I think a lot of people, when they hear a good story or they read a good piece of art medium, anything, they always want it to be turned into a movie. But for me, when I read a really good book, I'm like, man, if that was a visual novel, I would have appreciated a little bit more. I want to see these things that they're drawing with words.
This would make for a really, really good, dirty Western or Eastern European short film.
Interesting. Making a Czech film, The Love on Guard.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of set up like a one act for sure.
Yeah, it's a one scene, one room, very intimate, dark, moody.
Not a lot of editing.
Yeah, I would say more than that even. It could easily be turned into a one act live stage performance.
Yeah,
that's what.
Yes, absolutely. And it is very simple. There's two people, and you need to have
exactly.
Because that's the great thing is you can read into it because there is no spoken word. You just need to have two believable characters.
Yep.
That have.
You need a circle. You need leaves and two people. And then lighting can allow for a lot of other interpretation.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it does kind of remind me of a play.
It's a character study. It's awesome.
Yeah, and they're two very good characters.
Yeah, you should do that, Chris. Do that and put it on YouTube for us.
Bye,
people together to make it happen.
By next week when we're putting this up.
Oh, great. Awesome. Yeah, let's get on that. Oh god!
We gotta hit one of the irons hot, right? It's gonna be so popular, it's gonna be blowing up after this podcast. So
don't worry, I got tons of free time.
We want all those YouTube hits, YouTube monies. Come on, man! Start those subscribers.
I know. Get paid.
Is that what you're writing in your to-do list?
Yeah, it's just in giant letters.
Just money.
Eventually make money at the thing you love.
You don't even have to write it out. You just do signs, money symbols.
Yeah, exactly. Just draw them.
Money hats everywhere.
Question marks, profit.
Yeah. Classical theater mostly. I don't get paid. What is this?
So I'm pulling this up really quick. Correct me if Marcos, this was the only game you did this month. But Davey, you were on all the other ones. Chris, you were at least on Gone Home. What I kind of want to go back to, we started off at the beginning of the conversation about how there was kind of a unifying theme for the month. I wanted to kind of touch on what did you guys think that unifying theme was?
To me, it was about adapting different stories into different forms of storytelling for I don't want to say video games, because I'm kind of on the these are not games side of that argument, which I think is fine. But I think it's just about adapting storytelling into new mediums. All three of these games were very, very different ways of telling a story.
Yeah. I was going to say expressions of storytelling.
Yeah.
And the two that I played, because I did the first and the third, are both...
Which was Gone Home
debated,
and Juniper.
Gone Home. Yeah, sorry. I should have probably made that more clear. But they are both games you can do quite easily in a sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Not a sitting of 4 or 5 hours, a sitting of an hour and a half to 2 hours. Or less for both. And the way they both tackle atmosphere and character development is very different. And yet both very poignant in their own right. which is really awesome because this is, and also a lot of games because of these two. Like when we were done with Gone Home, I've been going now through the backlog of PS Plus games and other smaller, different games that I've had downloaded but just haven't gotten to because I now want to keep finding other different experiences.
Oh, I have some good experience. We'll talk after this.
All right. So yeah, it's been wonderful because I've been looking for. I've done visual novels before, but I haven't, with the walking genre, I hadn't really jumped into that. And after Gone Home, other than one of my online staples right now, I couldn't get back to Metal Gear Solid 5. And I love that game, and I'm going to get back to it eventually, but I needed a break because I wanted to find other things.
Sure.
So for me, it's also just been like keep looking for the interesting. Like the big one on my list right now is that Dragon Cancer. Like it's going to kill me because it hits way too close to home, but I want that. I want these new things, and it's what I love about the medium. And it's, we have all this wonderful experimentation that's been going on for years now, but it keeps getting more and more prevalent and more. There's more of a limelight on it, which is awesome.
It's so malleable and unexplored, like this game's story. It could be anything, and it's just so exciting as a lover of fiction. Like,
so much is left to your imagination. You can make of a lot of these things what you will. It's open ended. It's not concluded, and all of a sudden, here you go. That was your experience. These are where the characters are. You're done. We get to witness these bite-sized moments of a lifetime. These just glimpses at a life, and then they don't tell you anything else. You just have to assume and hope or fear, and that's it. And with maybe the music or the way the story's been conveyed to you up to that point, it leads you in a direction of optimism or negativity, but that's all you have. Yeah. You've just got to, you show up and then you leave. It's great. I love it.
So I know, Marcos, you were only on this one, but I'm not sure if you played To the Moon or Gone Home before. Do you have any thoughts on themes?
I have not played them, so I can't give you an honest answer, unfortunately.
What would you say the number one theme that you took out of Juniper's Knot? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know.
Okay. That's fair. I was going to say.
Yeah, that's like super on the spot.
Kind of brutal.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go a very, very different tact than I think everybody else with a kind of perspective on this. I think the unifying theme, and I don't think this is what we planned at all, but I think they're all stories about the lengths of individuals willing to go for either a relationship or companionship.
Huh.
So to just kind of go through it really quickly, you think of Gone Home, and you look at not the main character here experience, but her sister, and you're watching her struggles of understanding her sexuality, coming to grips to that, the length she's willing to go when her parents don't approve of it, and having them essentially break up but then come back together in the end, and that huge epic kind of love story around that. And then you go to the Moon, and you look at the broken relationship between the older man and the whole game is about reconciling his dreams, and ultimately his dream is that companionship with the love of his life. And then you fast forward to Juniper's Knot, and again it's the boy lost, needing help. It's this fiend that has been stuck in this circle that had essentially the love of her life torn from her, and she tailspinned out of that, and now she's stuck, and she finds new companionship from that, and the lengths they're willing to go from that point forward to have each other. I know that's extrapolating a little bit from what the ending is, but I kind of view that as the central theme of actually what became of this month. It's not necessarily, they're not love stories, but they are, it's the struggle of two people needing each other.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I didn't play To the Moon, but what I have played from this creator was A Bird Story or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that was more or less just or Bird Story rather, a story of just a boy and his bird.
Yeah, it was very much about companionship and intimacy, even though it was between a boy and a bird.
Yeah, it was just very simple and just very intimate.
And even if you look at Gone Home, just how solitary it feels, how alone you feel going through that house.
Yeah.
You build so much more into it because you are alone, and you're seeking out where your family is because you need them, essentially.
And especially like the subplot with the parents, like that's very much about a relationship trying to come back together as well.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna bag on like AAA games, but I do think that's one of the main places you have for these indie games or these smaller games or these small teams to have these passion projects. Is you can have a central theme, something that's not going to be necessarily commercially viable for a big publisher, and you can have an interesting experience that can touch somebody that plays it.
It's crazy because the games industry is more and more really mirroring cinema in terms of how things get made, where you have your blockbusters that they can be done if there's a lot of creativity and freedom. They can be very poignant stories. But oftentimes, most of these movies now are being cultivated by a hive mind for a profit. Mm-hmm. And it's these small projects that can really delve into characters and relationships because also half the time you only have a budget for 3 people.
Yeah.
So you better make those 3 people pretty damn special.
Yeah. I do find with AAA games, I find myself like steering myself more towards mechanical stuff rather than story-related stuff for that very reason. I feel like a lot of AAA games are like just like popcorn summer movies, like it's fun, good, okay. It's not, those aren't the kind of stories that really draw me in, but like a solid mechanical game can keep me enthralled regardless of what's going on otherwise. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's why when you have a Last of Us or something like that, it becomes such a shockwave to the system because
that's a very good counterpoint is The Last of Us. Man, that game was written well.
Yeah, and because of it, people stand up and take notice.
Yeah,
because it's much more rare than you'd like it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that is going to do it for us at RetroChrono. I think that's a perfect place to end this one. And the important thing is we kept the podcast shorter than the actual game it takes to play.
Game?
That would have been hilarious.
So we're going to be back next month. For March, we are playing Nier. So we'll be back to our normal schedule of having multiple podcasts for that game. We also will be back to doing bonus rounds. There we go. Whew. Too many encounters. We'll have a bonus round next month. I am not going to spoil that. I am just going to say I am super, super excited, and I think everybody that knows what's going on in that is super excited. So that'll be a treat for you guys.
You guys are beating up a car as fast as you can in like 10 seconds, right?
It's got to be faster than 10 seconds.
Exactly.
Always faster than 10 seconds. In the meantime, you guys can send your emails to retro@rpgfan.com, jump on the boards, and voice your thoughts. You can also go to iTunes or any other podcast like listening things apps and review. The reviews and comments make a huge difference to getting it out, so please do that. But yeah, however you do it, whether it's Twitter or whatever, please send us your thoughts. We love hearing from you guys, and we'd love for you guys to be involved. But yeah, that is gonna do it for us here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We definitely enjoyed playing this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And until next month, thank you for listening.
Yeah. Love each other, everybody.
Bye.